All right, everybody, welcome to Tesla Today. This is a big show, and I promise you, you're going to learn something new. First off, there's some breaking news that happened, 3 days ago, so maybe not breaking, but Giga Mexico is back on track. We've been reporting that they had initially said, the governor, that it's going to be delayed by 12 to 14 weeks. Well, now the governor's back saying all the permits are ready and ready to go. Secondly, the big thing I'd like to do is give you a forecast for what's going to happen in Q3. We got Brian White joining us, and he has been the most accurate Tesla kind of a community member who's been able to predict and tell you what the production numbers are going to be. He was perfectly accurate in Q2. Now he's got some information that's going to be kind of interesting. We're going to find out, but he's predicting that Q3 will not be a record quarter. And then finally, we also have quite a bit of news from many different kinds of legacy automakers. They seem to be struggling with inventory levels and so forth. So welcome, Brian. Appreciate you joining me today.
Good morning, Herbert. It's a pleasure as always.
Nice. I'm really excited about your video that you produce and you publish on YouTube, but it's pretty shocking that you're saying the Q3 numbers may not be record numbers. We're going to walk you through each one of those. So let's get started with some of the great news that happened a few days ago. So Tesla Gigafactory Mexico permits are all moving forward. The initial build out or the groundbreaking is imminent, as per the governor of Nuevo León. So, basically, Governor Garcia suggested that the permits for the Mexico are moving forward. And this is his quote: "We do not yet have a date for when, but the good news is that all the permits for the environment, energy, water, everything is already checked. It is advancing. So at any moment, we're going to give them the news. The first stone is being laid." So they're ready for groundbreaking. It's up to Tesla now to decide when that is. And then he also said this. He said, "We have more of information is that right now, all the Tesla's already in the final stage of design of the new car, that new model, that compact car, and it's going to be the best electric and economic car in the world. It's going to be a milestone." So he's saying that the design is finished, and what we know is that they're already finishing the production lines, the software, and everything must be ready to start the plant. So he's pretty positive now. We reported on this channel a couple of weeks ago that Governor Garcia had basically said that it's going to be delayed 12 to 14 weeks. Now, all of a sudden, it looks like it's all done. What's your thoughts, Brian?
Well, we knew that Tesla was working on the design. That's probably the stumbling block, is that it is a very complicated machine in which to build the machine, and there's a lot of moving pieces, and they got to get it right. It's no surprise to me that the Mexican government is moving as quickly as they need to. This is a top priority. And we've seen people saying, "Oh, this is so far behind." Hey, we were told it'd probably be in June. We're a week and a half into July. This is on schedule. A project, a multi-billion-dollar, multi-million square foot property being developed 10 days late is on time. So this is somewhere between fantastic news and, of course, just the news we expected.
Exactly, just the news we expect. So this is great news because initially there was rumors that they're going to push out the compact car till the first quarter of 2025. Now it looks like we probably are back on track to the last quarter, second half of 2024. And so that's good news. And, hearing that the design is finalized, I think it's also a very big deal. So this is in China. So this is July 11th, yesterday, or because of China, maybe the day before that, there was a press release from a Chinese news article. And what they basically said was, this person here kind of translated it for us, that Tesla's finalized the design. Okay, we've already talked about that. And we're calling it Model 2 for now. We don't know what the name is. But the important information here is they actually even did say that the price might be between 22,000 and 25,000 US dollars. And then they added that the Mexican Gigafactory plans to produce 2 million of these compact cars a year for the US market. Wow, Brian. So this is, I don't know. Of course, it's rumors. We don't know how true that is.
It's beyond rumor. It's low grade rumor. Elon has been on the record more than once saying it ain't going to be called the Model 2. So right there, the whole thing is red flags for days. And I know there's a lot of red flags when you're in China. That's kind of their thing, especially at the military parades. But this is and it's not going to be 22,000. There's no need for it to be 22,000. This rumor is nothing but rumor. I believe absolutely that the design is, if not finished, close enough to design lock to actually start building around it. But yeah, the rest of it makes no sense at all. It feels like a third-hand rumor. Super factory is the literal translation. You'll see that in the drone footage from China, where they would repeatedly call the Gigafactory the super factory because Giga wouldn't. Yep. They don't translate it that way. Yeah, it's they're probably reporting on things that we have said and making it a little bit juicier.
No, I totally agree.
I wouldn't call that any news at all.
Agreed. Yeah, there's no new information that somehow they know that the price is that we haven't even seen the design. The price is the last thing they share. They share it. Usually they'll even show you the design and may not even share the price until the very last second. However, having said that,
and why would they make it $3,000 cheaper than we thought when at 25,000? If you look at, for example, if they were to sell this in the US, yesterday, Joe from the San Joaquin Owners Club tweeted out showing what the incentives are just in the San Joaquin Valley. And on a new car, it's already like $15,000 in incentives. That means you're at 10,000. That means with the gas savings, you're at like a $5,000 car. Why would they discount it another 3,000 on a brand new model that's going to have huge demand? It doesn't make sense.
Okay. But we did hear them say that it's supposed to be 50% the cost, 50% the size. So, or the size of the Gigafactory produce, but it's 50% the cost. So, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're speculating here. Okay. Let's get to Q3 numbers. And so you, Brian, you are one of the best kind of the person that you should follow, folks. You should follow him on Twitter at 4K Podcast. You should follow him on YouTube, MyTeslaWeekend. He keeps track of every Gigafactory and he keeps track of the production numbers. And that's his specialty. I mean, I'm telling you, you should watch his videos because he actually tracks the air conditioning units, the fans, to tell you what lines and how many lines are running. And he has been accurate, very accurate. If you take a look at this, in Q2 2023, he predicted many months before that the production numbers is going to be 479,700.
No. That's a final. That's now the final number. But my number was off by my number was off by less than 2%. My production or my deliveries was off by 0.7%. And there are people who will. The only people who generally beat me on my numbers are guessers, people who don't show the math, people who just kind of people who look at all the other numbers and go, well, you know what, I think it's going to be this. And that's guessing. I always show my math. I always do the work. And this time I was an outlier and I said, I'm going to, boy, you guys, I'm an outlier. That means I'm probably wrong, but here's the math anyway. And I had two different people in the comments say, you know, you're definitely wrong. One said, if you're within 2%, I'll come back and subscribe. And he literally came back and said, I owe you an apology. I don't generally do predictions at the beginning of the quarter or even mid-quarter. I save it until the end. I'm always tracking it, but I'm never publishing it. And the reason I decided to do this is because there are some big brands in prognostication who love to make early constant predictions that they know that they have to know are dead wrong. And then they'll adjust them throughout the quarter to meet the reality. And that annoys the hell out of me. And so I'm saying, look, the numbers exist early. We know what they are early. Stop giving money to the big brands just because they're old when they are not showing you numbers in good faith. There, I said it.
Yeah.
I said it.
You said it, and I totally support you. I totally understand what you're saying. But basically, what we're saying here is that there's other people that are giving a lot of being given a lot of credence for their predict, but they just change it over time every day. Of course, they're just going to say a number for no reason and then keep raising it. You do this based on actual data. You actually look at the factories. You've been tracking it. Anyways, okay, so let's not belabor that point. You're very accurate. Now, this is what you're saying, though. You're saying that you are crunching the numbers. You're looking at the projections. You know how many production lines for each of the factories are, and you are going to walk me through this. But basically, The punchline is you're saying that Q3, it may not be a record production number.
Mhm,
So let's walk
mhm.
this through. Go ahead.
So in Fremont, if they take down one of the two Model 3 lines for retooling, we have to factor in that downtime. My assumption is that they would leave the other one back up. So you see, it says just, and I left my equations in there, times 0.94, it's down 6%. They would take one of the lines down, leave the other line up, and oh, that's still last quarter's one. If you inch forward, you'll see that the math is much more complicated on that one. There we go. Because what I did is I took half the line, uh, extrapolated it for the extra days, added a little bit of efficiency, but the second line comes down for a specific amount of time, and then for retooling, and as a result, we end up with just a little bit less production. The new line
Sure.
would be more productive, but it wouldn't offset the downtime. And
All right.
yeah,
This is S and X, very small numbers anyway. So let's see
well,
the big
that's
ones are three and Y.
three and Y is what you're looking at. The
Yeah.
S and X. That what I did is I just said same production as last quarter, one extra day.
Yeah. Well, the number for the 3 and Y is here. So Fremont 3
The
and Y
number
is
for the three and Y,
116, a
and there's
little bit
that
less than the
equation for it.
121.
Yeah, a
Okay,
little bit
gotcha.
less than the 121,
Okay. That's
just
what you're
barely
talking about.
down. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Let's look at
the
Shanghai. Yeah.
Shanghai 3 and Y, and the equation there is Model Y is going to go as it was with an extra ounce of efficiency. One of the Model 3 lines is going to come down for retooling, causing some backlog. The other Model 3 line is going to perform a little bit better. And these are things we have seen when they've done other lines before. This is based on the math when the Model Y line in Berlin was taken offline for a few days for retooling. This will be a much bigger undertaking. But these numbers have, my assumptions on things like this have been very good in the past because I watched the
Yeah.
factories like literally nobody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then getting to Berlin Y and Texas Y, those are going to be uh, the same, but a little bit better. And actually, on Texas Y, it isn't as good as I would have hoped. But there's also a complicated equation there, which factors in them taking down the third shift and moving those people over to the new second and third lines, which will start producing, but at a lower rate. So even though the third shift is going away, it's not going down. This factory is actually going up, which is an assumption I've seen other people run the opposite direction on. I've got a new version of this coming out. As soon as the China delivery numbers or production numbers for June are finalized and published, that will change these numbers. And I expect that within the next few days, probably. But yeah, once you look at that, and CyberTruck, that could be zero because they might produce them and not show them as sold. Just like the Semi, we know they made 90 last quarter, but they didn't report any. It could be that they just didn't count them as deliveries. So if that's the case, that would put us at double that for this quarter. Those last two numbers could be zero, but those are rounding errors in the grand scheme.
Sure. What's that last line? Because your face is
Semi.
covering. That's a
Yeah, the
semi.
last
Okay.
line is semi. Yeah.
All right. So here's the punchline. You're saying that in Q3, you're predicting 473,971. Let's call it
Yeah.
474,000. That's
Mhm.
less than the 479. That's less than the
Mhm.
that we did this quarter. That's
Mhm.
yeah,
But
that's
it's
shocking
fine.
because
It's
Berlin and Texas are supposed to be ramping up. So why is this
and they are.
so?
And they are. The only lag is this changeover for Model 3 Highland, which may not even happen this quarter. But if it does, we will see some downtime. This isn't a bad thing. If you're counting to see how fast each lap is, the one where you make the pit stop to get new tires is going to be slower. You had to do the pit stop. So that's it. It's not a bad thing. And I had one guy in the comments saying, "Oh, this is clickbait." That's not what clickbait is, my friend. These are numbers.
Okay, so you're pretty confident that that's the number that's going to be Q3 production.
Yeah.
Now, are you saying that Q4 though is still going to be obviously record
Oh,
and everything's back to the races?
gangbusters. Gangbusters. Yes. Yes. If the Model 3 refresh is uh executed this quarter, it's very reasonable to assume that we will have substantially lower Model 3 output, which would affect everything. And then back to the races once it's dialed in.
Okay, what is your number for the full year 2023?
I'm going to say 1.9. I'm going to say 1.9, and I'm believing that might even be low. But the gulf between 1.8 million deliveries and 1.9 million and 2 million deliveries is an extra 1,000 cars a day, which is substantial. But an extra 500, that's a lot more reasonable. And especially if this quarter isn't a record, then we need an extra 1,000 a day. So I'm saying 1.9 is my number right now.
Okay, because folks were saying that you need to get to 500,000 cars delivered by every quarter now, Q3 and Q4, in order to hit these numbers. Now you're saying it's 479 or 477 actually.
Or something.
Yeah, that's
but that's nothing. It's nothing. That's absolutely fine. And just remember how excited we were when we hit 500,000 cars in a year. That was recent history. You and I knew each other by then.
Yeah. You're saying though that this is production. This is production reasons because they're shutting down lines, like you said, for like a pit stop to try to improve the revised Model 3. Is that the one they're saying?
Yes, but don't worry about it because we've got 16 days of inventory, and when that shutdown happens, those units that are backed up will continue selling. So deliveries will be largely unaffected by the production slowdown. And I said, eventually those two numbers will coalesce. It's just a question of when. And the answer is when the growth story probably ends.
Which is long time from now. But
no, very soon, but 20 million.
Yeah. Gotcha. I love you. Okay, gotcha. But good. I mean, you're still saying 1.9 million by the end of the year, and they're saying 1.8, and then the stretch would be 2 million. And so it's not and then like you said, it's going to set us up for a really good stretch. This is good news. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. That's fantastic that you did that. You're very accurate and you've got very specific reasons why you're doing this, not just guessing. So let's talk about the next thing here, which is we saw this photo come out. And this is Giga Factory, Texas, and these are Giga castings for the CyberTruck.
So let me talk about
Corey
this real
Steuben's
quick.
reaction to it yet. But go ahead.
Well, I assume I know Corey's reaction. He's seen the earlier version of this, and it looks the same. And I interviewed him on my channel about this. I saw people asking on Twitter, wait, what does this mean with exoskeleton? And what does Monroe think? It's like, don't any of you watch my channel? Anyway, there's a revelation here that I haven't seen others discuss, which is, let's see how close we can zoom in on it, which is, if you zoom in on just in front of the rear wheels, you will see there is no floor there. What does that tell you?
Oops.
It means I'm not seeing a floor on that. Yep, right there, right next to the. There's no floor. Where's the floor?
Well, I mean, isn't it the floor supposed to be the battery? So it's a battery.
Yes, sir. It means we do have structural battery pack. It will not be a cobbled together 2170 like we see in the majority of Model Ys being made in Texas, which are not made with the structural battery pack. This is confirmed structural battery pack. Now, whether they're going to do that with a 2170 or 4680, we know the objective is for it to be a 4680. We don't know if that's something they're going to definitely be able to do. But there's no reason they couldn't make a structural 2170. This is very, very exciting. And we're seeing them. We're seeing all the pieces coming together.
Yeah, exactly. But can you explain to me then the exoskeleton versus the endoskeleton debate? This is clearly not an exoskeleton. What's
clearly
this comment on
that? The summary is, if you take off the exoskeleton, is it still load bearing? And if the answer is yes, then the exoskeleton is not the skeleton. It's just another structural component. This looks like it would have sufficient structural integrity that it could drive around. With the battery pack and those castings, the skin is not doing all the work. It is doing quite a bit, I'm sure, which means It is not an exoskeleton. It is a unibody.
Yeah.
And Corey's compromise to keep the comments from burning down the house, I suppose, was that it has elements of both.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a unibody.
It's unibody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guess what? It's going to be the safest car in the vehicle in the friggin' world. You cannot. This is bigger, stronger than a tank, and it's going to crumple where it needs to crumple, but it won't crumple ever.
It won't
I
fold
would
into
just,
the passenger compartment.
I'm going to be so safe in this thing. This thing is going to be amazing. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Okay. Well, I mean, look
I'm
at
so
that. There's
excited.
two of them, not
That
just one.
camo
And so
wrap
this
has got to be sold, made available
for sure.
commercially
Yeah.
because we are falling in love with it.
I'm not. I'm not into the camel wrap. A lot of people are. I'm not. I don't. Nah. Why
I meant me and my
military? Why?
tapeworm.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so Gigafactory news is so amazing. So this one here is Giga Shanghai has produced its 1 millionth Model Y. How big of a deal is this, Brian? Oops, I'm not
Uh,
showing my screen.
It's
There you go.
millionth Model Y. How big of a deal is it? Well, it's orange. That's unusual. It must be a wrap. I think it was at the Peterson Auto Museum where they had on display the 1 millionth Model Y ever made, and it was a blue Model Y. I was like, oh, this is the kind of news you want. It's big news, but it's not sexy. It's not something that people are going to come back and say, well, it doesn't really mean what it means. It means exactly what it means. It means 1 million have been sold. The people trying to diminish the accomplishment of becoming the best selling car in the world love to say, well, yeah, but Toyota still outsells them 7-1, 8-1 as a brand. So, right. They also had 100-year head start, an 80-year head start. This is very quiet, big news. This is walk softly and carry a big stick. Making a million of something. Well, the renewed nonsense that I've read this week was, well, that's great, but it's too bad they sold so many because now everybody's got one and there's no more market left because if you wanted one, you would have bought it by now. And so there's no more customers. That's not how cars work. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very exciting times.
Yeah. What's your projection of the maximum kind of like where does it top out? How many per year could it top out for the Model Y? Because like you're saying, if you compare to other cars, Corolla has never sold more than a couple million a year, whatever it is. What do you expect for Model Y?
I expect it to be around the same. A couple million a year to me feels like a logical endpoint. Shanghai is at a run rate in excess of 1 million a year, but that's 3 and Y. You could say probably 600,000-ish of that, probably 630 of it is Model Y. So that would mean plus so 1 point, so probably 2.5 million is going, under 3 million is going to be the ceiling on that is my expectation. And no matter how popular it gets, as soon as that compact comes out, hold on to your butts. It's going to be even more popular.
I guess the thing that I kind of not struggling, but it kind of very piques my interest, right? Is that initially Tesla was saying that Model 3 is going to be the car. It's going to be like the mass market car. And you and I did a very incredible show a couple of weeks ago that really looked at all the data and this market segmentation, and the sedan is massive. It's bigger than we think globally. It's at 30, 40, 35%, whereas SUVs like the Model Y is at 40%. So I think that you and I agreed that the Model 3 will have a place in the sedan space. But then you got the compact car is going to be the car, right? Clearly, there's a space for the cheaper version, probably bigger than the SUV and the compact sedan. But you know what I'm saying? Like all three of these could be massive market share. And so why should Model Y just top out at 3 million? I think it could go higher. If you've got a perfect car, a perfect package, perfect pricing, Like the reason people don't buy the SUVs is that they top out in price. And it's not like some people think, oh, just because of the form factor, people don't not everybody wants an SUV versus a compact car. But I yeah, I think that the
So
reason
I
they
can
don't
address
buy the
that.
SUV is because of price. Otherwise, you know,
Otherwise, they'd
they'll
rather.
get the better car.
So I think in a lot of markets, Europe and Asia, the Model Y is too large for the roads.
Too big. Yeah.
Uh,
Gotcha.
that's going to be an obstacle you can't overcome. And in some markets in the US, it's too small for your family. You have a
Mm,
third row option, it's very tight. I have
mm.
not had personal experience with it, but I have seen all kinds of reviews that show it's not appropriate for anything but small children. So there are people who need bigger and there are people who need smaller. And if you look at just the Asian market and the South American market, small cars are more popular. You look at India, big cars are almost not a thing because the roads are just so tight.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going to come down to size more than price. If they could get the Y down to 25,000 as well, would it sell better than the compact? Yeah, definitely. But I don't see a world where that many additional atoms end up costing the same.
What? That
It's a
world
bigger car. It's got
bigger
more
car of initial
atoms.
atoms.
It's got more material. Getting it down
Got
to
it.
25,000
Yeah.
means that they're overcharging for the compact.
All right.
Uh,
All right, man.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's move new topic here, which is megapack factories. The limiting
Mhm.
factor, Jordan Gesigi had this tweet,
Yeah.
which I really liked. What's that?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
Jordan. Yeah. Just
and he says he has a prediction. In 3 to 4 years, he thinks that Tesla will announce megapack factories for each of the 10 largest global economies. Here's his reasoning: because megapacks are more bulky, more difficult to ship than vehicles. So he's saying, hey, they need to have megafactories locally. And then he explains more. The savings from shipping and logistics may outweigh the benefits of super large gigafactories. What? The savings from shipping may outweigh what?
yeah.
It's the
Uh,
opposite.
well, right.
What?
Well,
Okay.
there's savings to having one central giant factory, but there's more savings from having from
Oh,
not
gotcha.
ship.
Yeah, yes. Okay, I understand now. You can have one giant megapack factories. Okay, gotcha. Sorry. Yeah, super large gigafactories. Is this the part of the reason why Elon was on a world tour visiting most of these countries? I agree that we have all been saying at this point that fat France is not going to be a gigafactory, guys. Don't worry, don't worry. Everybody's freaking out. They're all worried about the workers there, and it's going to be a megapack factory. So laying the groundwork for megapack factories and becoming an energy provider in each, right? It makes sense. You want the
Absolutely.
megapack factory in a local country, local continent, provide energy for them. And so this is a nice table he put out, and he says, here's the countries: United States, China, Japan, by largest economies. And that we're gonna see a megapack
Hmm.
factory in every why are you what?
I'm saying that
What's the
because
question?
if you look at the countries on this list,
Mhm.
the only one that you and I haven't already named and talked about as a potential for
Yeah,
a battery factory is
yeah.
Italy.
No,
You
we've
and
already
I
talked
have
about Illy. No, we did.
as a potential megapack factory.
Well, he was visiting Italy, and yet
No,
again,
no,
same
but
thing
I
with
mean, this is
France.
funny because you and I on previous shows discussing
Mhm.
megapack have named every one of these
Yes, you
countries.
did. Yes, you did.
Well, yes, but
Yeah, because
yes,
you did
except Italy.
people should be aware that Brian has a video that you did quite a bit ago that was
Mhm.
very interesting. You went and took a look at every single country, and you went and did a whole breakdown for each country of the likelihood that they would be gigafactories, megapack factories, and you did such a great job doing that. So, um, okay, yeah. So the one that's surprising to me, of course, is Japan, because right now we do know that they're one of the top auto industries, and so
Mhm.
people have been predicting that there should be one there. But we also know Toyota's struggling. The government's going to support Toyota, but megapack factory there makes sense.
It
So, anyways, yeah.
does. Yeah,
And if you
and
go down the
their
list,
their
yeah.
grid needs more support, and yeah, any one of these countries could do it. And Jordan Giesecke is right.
Yeah.
The Megapacks V2 weighs 82,000 pounds. That is cumbersome to ship. You have to have an oversized load, which is a whole nightmare in and of itself. Putting those on planes you can't fit very many on a plane. You don't want to do that. Putting them on ships or trains is fine, but they are over the road, very difficult to move, and you don't want to do it. So putting megapack factories all over the world where they're needed is the right move.
Yeah. And then the interesting thing, of course, is Jordan is right. Elon has been visiting, going on a world tour. The only one that we haven't seen him visit is Japan. He's been to every one of these. He's been to every one of these. Interesting. Very interesting.
I think you're right. And not necessarily been to, but spoken with the premiers and prime ministers and whatnot. Yeah. Yep.
Hey there, thank you for joining me. If you can, please consider supporting this channel so I can keep it going. It's a lot of work arranging all these amazing interviews. One of the easiest ways is just to click that join button and become a member of the channel. Thank you very much. Let's get brighter. All right, so another big giant topic is in this, it looks like that the legacy car companies are struggling. They really are struggling to sell electric vehicles. And so the big question people are asking, or at least these mainstream media are, try to stir the pot. They're going, is it because nobody wants to buy electric vehicles? And, that's not the issue. That's not the issue. Okay, so not enough buyers. Is that right? Is that right, Joanne? So the details are that the supply of EVs has swelled by 350% this year to more than 92,000 units. So that's a 92-day supply just sitting on dealers' lots. Roughly 3 months worth of EVs, twice the industry average of gas cars, I guess. Dealers have a relatively low 54 days worth of gasoline-powered vehicles in inventory, but in normal times, there's usually a 70-day supply. So that's low because of the pandemic, but usually it's a 70-day supply. Here, we're talking 92-day supply for the EVs. And now, of course, Cox inventory doesn't include Tesla, which sells direct to consumers. And as we know, what's the inventory number for Tesla?
16 days, 17. I think it's 16 days.
Right. So it's industry leading, and everybody keeps harping about industry.
It's a good thing it doesn't include Tesla's data, or it would pull the entire industry average down significantly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because Tesla makes up so much of the EV market. And yeah, there's, well, in the early days, the legacy guys could say, well, we could sell more if we could build them, but we got to retool guys, you retooled the factories, you built them. What's going on? What's going on? And as you know, I did my own little analysis yesterday where I pulled up Auto Trader and I looked at, I looked by model. I got the model counts, and then I ran the numbers and determined that, yeah, they have mid 60s to 90 days of inventory on a lot of the popular models. And when Jim Cramer tweets out, oh, the Lightning is better. Well, it's more available. I'll grant you that. If you wish to purchase one today, you can. Yeah, it's going to be. So the question is, why are they struggling? And I would have to say on a lot of the models, it's because they're not compelling enough. If you want to be the best, you need to have some kind of competitive advantage. So when you look at the Tesla is now the Apple. When people say, I'm going to look at, Android is better, great. But when you compare phones, you compare two things. And everything is something you compare to the iPhone. You can say, no matter what you get it either because it is or because it isn't an iPhone. And just having that kind of brand recognition does all the work for you.
Yeah. So I got a couple of questions here to just really think through here, right? Number one is, with the partnerships with the supercharger, is that one of the reasons people aren't buying these EVs from these legacy makers? Is that they thought, okay, that's, there's so many reasons, but one could be not enough chargers out there. But now that they partnered, which just happened last month, do you think that's going to impact that actually more of these will sell?
I don't think it'll make any difference. I think people know that if you buy one, you'll be able to use the charger network soon enough. But yeah, I don't see it making a big difference, especially for first-time EV buyers who really don't necessarily have a good handle on what EV charging is, what the ecosystem is like.
Okay, and the second question is, okay, so these guys are in big trouble, right? I mean, they need to transition to electric vehicles. They're building these initial ones. and they're about to plan for bigger factories, more of these new models and so forth. But if they can't sell the ones they have now, and why can't they sell it? Is it because people are buying the ICE cars, or is it because, like you said, these EVs are just not compelling, especially when it's compared to Tesla's Model Y, the price point, the features you're getting? Um, what's going to happen?
So
Uh,
I hear you asking, are the other guys doomed? Will these new factories fail? And I believe the answer is probably not, because the new cars coming out of the new factories will be slightly more compelling. At least they're newer designs. That means they've got room to improve their cost controls. It means they've got just the delay of a year or two means the batteries will have gotten cheaper. And the whole idea behind building the new factory is that the processes and procedures are improved, streamlined in such a way that price can come down. Now, does that mean that they're going to become profitable on these units that are finally priced appropriately, or just that they'll lose a little bit less? Either answer is a good answer. If you're only losing 500 a car instead of 5,000 or 10,000 a car, that's a huge improvement. And you can afford to lose 500 bucks on a car if you think there's any chance you'll get 500 bucks back in parts and maintenance in the future, or even 500 on the financing. You're no longer underwater. So these factories are still critical, and we will see them coming online in the next year or two. Ford has a blue oval city in Tennessee that the construction's coming along quite nicely. I expect to see production out of it in the next 18 to 24 months. So yeah, it'll be the legacy guys are not doomed yet. They're on the right path. The only question is if they're moving at a speed that will help them outrun the tsunami.
yeah. Okay. It's a moving target, right? That's the
It is a
problem.
moving target.
So they build these new gigafactories, or their factories, they build new versions, they get cheaper because of scale and so forth. They really go for it. But by that point, Tesla could lower prices even more because they are themselves reducing and getting even bigger scale. We're talking 2 million cars, 3.5 million cars using the supply chain. Jeff Lutz points out that when you have that number, you have that huge number of sales, that guaranteed sales, suppliers are going to bend over backwards, give you the lower prices. They're doing gigafactories, they're automating. Maybe bots will be there. Okay, so
Well, and I would say on that, we know that Ford is a customer of Monroe and Associates, and we know that not because they've said it, which they haven't, but because when they did the big Ford Lightning reveal where they showed, hey, look, Jim Farley came to deliver Sandy's personal F-150 Lightning. There was a torn apart F-150 Lightning on the rack behind them. They didn't do that morning. They'd been working on that for months. Ford is absolutely a customer of theirs, which means they are tied in with people smart enough to tell them, if you want to even compete with Tesla remotely, you have to stop shooting at we have to stop sending the puck where they were. You have to send the puck where they're going to be. And they've seen how Tesla's factories are evolving, and they're certainly telling them, don't benchmark the Model Y from 3 years ago, benchmark something smarter, like the CyberTruck, or even the unboxed model, compact model.
well, you're making some very, very good points, Brian. But for somebody who has created, I don't know, 8, 10 videos on your channel on Toyota is doomed, Ford is doomed, GM is doomed, and you really break them down, yeah, you're saying some very politically correct statements today. Okay, all right, we'll see what happens. Good points. Good points. So, in terms of this inventory issue, this article breaks it down that Genesis, the Korean luxury brand, they sold only 18 of their $82,000 G80 sedans. Looks like it's a 350-day supply, buddy. 350-day supply. It's like, oh god, they can't even sell this thing. Audi's Q4 and the Q8 e-tron, which we're hearing quite a bit about. The GMC Hummer, they have bloated inventories well above the 100 days. These are the big brands. I mean, I've been hearing Q4 and Q8 as being great cars. We know the Hummer is very, very specialized. 100 days come with hefty price tags that make them ineligible for foreign tax credits. So they're really now hampered with that. You got choices. Then you got the Kia. Now it's Hyundai, Kia, Ioniq 6, the Nissan Ariya. When I was talking to Corey Steuben and I asked him who's the next manufacturer in line after Tesla, he said this the Kias because they're really great cars. but they're also struggling in terms of selling it. And then the article points out the price cutting strategy could be taking a toll. The once hot Ford Mustang Mach-E now has a 117-day supply. So we're going to walk you through the Mach-E. You did a great tweet on that. I'll be sharing that. But the other part of this article talked about the fact that hybrid vehicles have lower inventory levels. So they seem to be still selling just 44-day supply.
Which is below the average of, what did we say, 54 for gasoline. So the marketing has worked. It's an easy sell to try and convince someone in a soundbite why hybrid's better. It's all the benefits of electric plus the benefits of gas. No, it's some of the benefits of electric and all of the downsides of both. But it makes for an easy sell. And if it's only, $1,000 or $2,000 more, it can make sense. If you tell people, just keep it plugged in, use it as a plug-in hybrid, plug in your plug-in hybrid, you'll get a ton of electric range. What they don't tell you is most people with hybrids don't plug them in because I don't have to. And if you don't use that gas motor ever, they die. They corrode and fall apart on the inside from lack of use, as if you parked it in a museum and didn't touch it. I've seen photos on Twitter of the inside of a BMW hybrid engine that was run on pure electric, and there's rust inside of the engine. You don't want that.
No. All right, let's wrap up this article. But basically, it says here that EV sales in the U.S. is accounted for 6.5% of the U.S. auto market so far. I think globally, we reported that it's at 10%. And that with the incentives coming on board, this should rise. Expected to sell 1 million units for the first time in 2023. The survey that they did found that 51% of consumers are now considering either new or used EV. That's up from 38% in 2021. And then they're saying that with new models, both Tesla and other brands, EVs, 33 new models are arriving this year. More than 50 new updated models are coming in 2024. So it looks like that people are interested in it. They're still raising the price, but why are these inventory levels staying there? And this article, their position is that consumers are still wary about purchasing one because of price or charging concerns. So this is it. They made big bets. They build these things. There's more coming next year. But if you can't get rid of the inventory, what's going to happen? So once and for all, Brian, what's your opinion? Why do you think is happening?
Ford spent 10 years telling buyers, do not buy an EV. All this nonsense, the charging, the fires, all the ridiculous BS. And they were very good at convincing their customers that these concerns are so real that you shouldn't buy an EV. And then they turn around and say, will you buy an EV, please? Please buy one. We've got so many on the lot. And their own customers are saying, boy, I don't know. I've heard a lot of bad stuff about EVs. Wasn't it you that told me that? So they've got to overcome the ridiculous stereotypes that they themselves created. And the problem with debunking BS is facts don't work. If facts would have worked in the first place, they wouldn't have bought the lies originally. So Ford's got an uphill battle, and it's a war that they started themselves, apparently with themselves. How curses if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah, love it. Okay, love your commentary, Brian. So this is your tweet that you did. It says, okay, you just repeated that the Mach-E has 98 days of inventory sitting on dealers' lots. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said 8,633 Q2 sales, 95 sales per day. And then there's 9,258 inventory, 98 days of inventory.
Yeah, and I just used Auto Trader. I didn't use, I assume that the article that we were talking about a minute ago was able to access the back end data, the dealer network data, because I know car dealers have a database they can get into to just see what inventory is available because they buy from each other all the time. I'm using more public data.
Okay, and then you showed this photo here, which is just
the proof.
The proof that what? There's 9,258 results.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what it's showing. And if you look, 57,978, that's a pretty good price for. I mean, it's below MSRP.
Hmm. They're
Yeah,
trying to
so
get rid of them. I mean, they need to sell them, and they don't. They are already losing $22,000 per car. so, so they're kind of
oh,
stuck in a hard place, rock and hard place, right?
yeah,
Okay, awesome. So that was Ford. We talked about some of the inventory issues. Now we got some other news from other car companies. Here's Lucid showing their numbers. So they delivered 1,404 vehicles in second quarter. They're on pace to 2,000 to finish well beyond below its guidance. So they're going to be below its guidance of 10,000
yeah.
for 2023. Quite a bit below. And so Gary Black says if the government of Saudi Arabia was not backing Lucid, 65% ownership, Lucid stock would likely be half where it is today. So they are struggling. What's your opinion on what's going to happen to Lucid? I know
I
you.
did not see this delivery number. This is pretty bad. That is exactly what I expected based on the based on what I saw, based on the aerial footage. I they announced in May, oh, we're going to be shipping thousands of cars to Saudi Arabia. Deliveries have begun there. There's no shortage of wealthy customers. As you know, the Saudi sovereign fund invests heavily in this. We've got it. We got this market on lock. And then I kept going back and watching the drone footage each week, and the cars were not shipping out. And by mid June, I think the number of cars in the lot, I'd counted it at one point, had only changed by about 200. So if that was the extent of all the deliveries going out, it meant either the Saudi Arabia deliveries weren't happening or they were the only ones that were happening, and they were happening in numbers far, far lower than we were told. 1,400. They're at 2,500 for the year so far. They're in deep trouble, and their investor cult is so deep that they refuse to believe anything that runs counter to their narrative. I must be lying because I've got Tesla in the name of my channel. That's not how it works. I have no vested interest in their failure, but I can see it coming a mile away. And I think their investors need to wake up.
What's your prediction? Might happen here? Saudi Arabia is going to put in more money to save them, or is it kind of one of those things where you could keep throwing money at this thing and they're just not going to be able to right the ship because their expenses are just through the roof, right? I mean, they just can't
Right.
create a profitable car.
They don't have the path. The people said, well, Tesla lost money for 17 years. Tesla never lost money on an individual unit. Every car they sold at a gross margin that was profitable. And that meant that the more cars they sold, the closer they got to profitability on a net basis. Lucid's the opposite. Every car they sell is one car closer to their absolute
Yeah.
financial ruin, meaning their greatest motivation to save money is to sell fewer cars. And as I've said repeatedly, the one thing they're very good at is selling fewer cars.
Okay, well, I shouldn't laugh about that. I really don't like it that they're going to die because I really like Lucid and
I
Rivian. They
love them,
sound like a
but
great, yeah. I mean, I wanted one or
they've
two
got
or
to get
both of them to
serious.
survive. Yeah.
I think
I
Rivian will
just,
survive. Their path looks right.
yeah.
But Lucid doesn't have that Model 3 coming. They've got their next car is the Gravity, which is going to be even more expensive than the Air in an even smaller market segment. And even if they were to capture 100% of the ultra luxury SUV EV market, it wouldn't be enough to save them. Their cash burn is $11 million a day.
Yeah. The reason I'm saying this is because I think the pure play electric vehicles companies have the best chance of succeeding. And, they are struggling. Again, it's all about timing. They came in when the market is now saturated and they themselves, it's hard. Production is hard and they need to struggle through that. But okay. So another bit of news about other car companies. So Faraday Future, it looks like they're struggling as well. So they announced today that its interim CFO resigned, and then what's scary is that the company will have to restate its financial statements 2022 Q1 23 because it covered some errors. So clearly he was pushed out. And he's like the he's the stooge that's going to be said, "Hey, you're the bad dude. You made up numbers." I'm sure that the executives probably encourage him to make up these numbers, but oh no, they're going to have to redo these numbers. And so now there's uncovered errors highlighting continued turmoil at the electric vehicle firm. This company, which has raised going concern doubts last year, appointed outsider Jonathan Morocco as its new interim chief financial officer. Okay.
Yeah. It's replacing a CFO, no big deal. On a pre-production company, no big deal. Why was that? Oh, because we have to restate a year and a half of legally binding filed federal paper. Oh my God. You guys, it's always been a clown show, but this takes it to a Theranos level is what it does. This is, yeah. I wish them success. I don't know if that was ever their plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess I'm a little confused here because it says at the top here that its interim CFO has resigned.
Mm-hmm.
And then it
Yeah.
says, okay, then they're replacing it with this Morocco guy. And then it says down here, Morocco replaces Yun Han, who will transition to the role of chief accounting officer. So what
I don't know. What
does that mean? Okay. I thought he resigned. Maybe he resigned as a new interim chief financial officer, but then he still keeps his job as chief accounting officer, or is this a totally different person? Okay, anyways.
If the company mattered, I would look into it, but
Yeah.
they've been all prototype and no production since forever.
All right, so let's talk Volkswagen. Of course, they're a big deal. Alex Voigt is in Germany. He's been following very closely the German automakers, and he did this very nice long thread talking about the CEO had a meeting with its managers, and he was starting to say things that are very, very important. He said that the company's vehicle business was sick and the roof is on fire. Schaefer called his speech the final wake up call and implemented an immediate spending freeze except for essential investments. So at least he understands that, but he should have understood that 5 years ago. Um, so
he wasn't there 5 years ago. Herbert Diess was still in charge, but
right.
And Herbert Diess was pushing like hell, and the Porsche family did not appreciate that. So out you go, Herbert. Thank you for your service. And they're absolutely struggling. They know that their prices are slightly too high for what they are. They can see that the cars that they're selling for, 40,000 euros, Chinese makers are selling for 39,000 euros, and the Chinese brands are actually profitable. Volkswagen, it's good to see them wake up, but they've still got some fundamental problems with the company. Specifically, when they said we had a meeting with the managers, did you see how many managers it was? It was 2,000. 2,000 managers. It would be ideal if the critical players in your organization could fit inside of a tennis stadium, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But they
all right. So, I'm just trying to point out some key parts here, but they're saying, of course, their positioning is that the demand for electric cars is weak across the board. Down here. We've had a strong reluctance to buy e-cars since January. So they're blaming it on that regardless of the brand. But the truth is that the demand for electric cars is weak across the board for legacy automakers in Europe, but at Volkswagen is particularly bad. So what are they going to do? Because the ID4 and ID5, we talked already earlier about the inventory levels. So they're going to have to shut production lines, production shifts. The third shift is actually eliminated. This is going to have to reduce it because they're producing too much, and which is the kind of like the opposite of what they need to do. They need to make more, but again, they're switching it from 3-shift to 2-shift operation. And then down here, basically saying the same thing, right? To 2,000 managers, the roof is on fire. What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? It was crazy. For the longest time, everyone just kept saying if they could just build them, they would sell every one they make. And we know this because when they made 100, they sold 100. And when they made 1,000, they sold 1,000. But when they make 100,000, they go, ooh, we're out of customers. And the market is a lot more competitive than they realized. Buyers are a lot more cost and price sensitive than they realized. And with interest rates being high, that's not helping either. So this is a tough time for Volkswagen, and they are starting to wake up to it. On the plus side, at least they are waking up to it. A lot of their competitors are not.
Yeah. And then just to clarify, initially the article was saying that the demand for all BEVs are failing, but actually when you listen to his own speech, what he said was competitors in the same electric vehicle segment earn 2 to 3 more. So their Volkswagen MEB platform and all BEVs that they offer are not competitive. They themselves are struggling really hard to make a profitable electric vehicle and a desirable electric vehicle. Both of those are a major issue for them. What are they going to do? I keep asking you the question and you don't have a good answer.
I think what they're saying when they say competitors, I can only assume they mean Tesla, because apart from them and maybe BYD in the European market, nobody's making a profit. So making 2 to 3 times more nothing is still nothing. They I don't think they're as far behind as that statement would lead you to believe, but they know they're behind, and it doesn't matter how far underwater you are. If you're underwater, you're still drowning.
All right. So today, what did we report? Just remind folks, right? It's a double whammy. We talked about the inventory levels that the legacy automakers have. We talked about a bunch of smaller pure play EVs and they're struggling. At the same time, we talked about Tesla moving forward with their Gigafactory in Mexico. Shanghai's producing great numbers. It's been so profitable and so efficient. Gigafactory in Mexico is on track, which is going to produce a compact car. The CyberTruck we showed looks like it's right on track because you see it on the production line already. We're seeing so many sightings of this. So you've got Tesla being able to reduce prices, increase their margins, and have cost, profitability. In the meantime, they're expanding their segmentation. They're going to trucks. They're going to do compact cars. And you and I still believe that there's a revised Model 3. Everything is firing along nicely for Tesla. In the meantime, all these guys are struggling. So, we want some of them to succeed, but at the end of the day, I think what we're going to hear them do is partner with Tesla. I don't know if partnership is really going to help them because what can Tesla do to help right the ship? Do you think there's some sort of, I can see them partnering with FSD or partnering with, of course, superchargers. Unless Tesla says, hey, well, I think if Tesla builds the compact car and then they do it in the 3rd-gen model, maybe they can say, hey, we'll build the platform for you and you just put your,
That's the only
thingy on it.
solution I see. That's the only solution I see. There was a lot of talk. Oh, somebody just build a skateboard. I talked with Corey from Monroe Associates about that, and he said it's not, that idea is a little too simplified, but building a platform. So it's not the whole thing, but it's the front and rear castings, the battery pack, and it's the drivetrain, and you put whatever form factor you want on top of it. That could work. Tesla could sell just that part of it, still keep their 20% margin because it's only a third of the cost of the car, half the cost really. And the legacy guys could put something prettier on top. If you look at Cupra and Skoda versus the VW, they're all built on the same platform. They're all roughly the same shape, but from the hips up, they're different cars. They look different. They appeal to slightly different markets, but have basically the same performance because they have the same software, the same drivetrain, the same everything under the skin. That's something that could be done. Especially if I was a small manufacturer, a boutique manufacturer like Aston Martin, who's trying to partner with Lucid, I would be more interested in partnering with someone serious. If you were a small performance car manufacturer and you could get a Model Y that doesn't have the body on it yet, that could be an amazing little performance car. On-road, off-road, doesn't matter. I think there's a lot of future in that if they can make that partnership work.
Yeah. So many, many, many months ago, you and I started this show together. One of the things that you and I were saying, or at least I know I was saying this, that the factory is the product. And when I interpret that as a business person, as a product person, I think that means that they're going to have 2, then they're going to have 4, then they're going to have 8, then they're going to have 12 and 16 and so forth. And that they could possibly sell that service. Most people will say, no, that's not going to happen. Tesla doesn't need to sell any of this. They need every single battery. They need every single thing. But if they are able to produce the product in scale, which is the factory, get it built every 6 months to a year, have it almost all automated, eventually even having bots there, then they might be able to produce factories beyond their own desire, 20 million cars and so forth. I mean, obviously, it's way down the line. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but very
I
interesting.
think the possibility is more interesting because there's something that a couple dots I just connected, which is, the big problem is there aren't enough batteries, right? Uh, I VW, GM, Ford placed this huge order for batteries. The battery company said, "Okay, finally, these guys are getting serious. Let's build the batteries." They slowed production. They once again are putting off their orders. There's surplus batteries on the market again, aren't there? Because if Volkswagen's not buying all of them and Ford's not buying all of them, now a lot of these batteries can't just go to Tesla, but the capacity can. Because if you're a battery producer and you're okay, you know what? We're going to spend the billion, the 3 billion. We're going to ramp up production in this factory because Ford is finally coming in hot. They're going to buy everyone we can get. Volkswagen, they're all in. What's that? They're slowing production. That leaves a lot of opportunity for someone more serious to pick up that production.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Fantastic. Thank you for commentary. You made some very important statements there. A couple that I
Yeah.
hope isn't true, which is the Q3 production numbers, but I'm not going to bet against you. Thank you, Brian. Thanks, everybody.
And don't forget, we've got the live show coming up momentarily where we're going to get even deeper in the Q3 numbers on my channel.
Yeah. YouTube channel, My Tesla Weekend. Come check us out there right after the show. Talk.